Robert Whittaker believes Israel Adesanya might actually be relieved to lose the UFC middleweight belt. Speaking to Michael Bisping on his Believe You Me podcast, Robert ruminated on the recent loss of his rival Israel Adesanya to Alex Pereira and offered an interesting perspective that it might actually free Israel up from the mental stress and burdens of expectations. In the interview, he said, "If we look at the fight just from a mental perspective, I believe Adesanya had a better chance last fight. But in saying that, maybe now that the worst has happened again, it frees him up for the next one. You see where it can swing both ways really easily. It can either swing one way, where it frees him up, the worst has happened, whatever, he gets in there mentally free. Or he's worried about it happening again with the small gloves because it has happened. Honestly, skill-wise, he could have beat him skill-wise last time. The fight between Adesanya and Pereira was quite close, though most had Israel up on the cards coming into the 5th round where he was KO'd. He did almost knock out the Brazilian himself though in the 1st round. However, Pereira was saved by the bell." Whittaker continued in the interview to discuss his excitement about being matched up with either man in the near future. "I'm chomping at the bit to get at both of them. I truly do feel that I can take myself to a new level. I feel that I can get in there and put on a better performance. I kind of understand where Adesanya was mentally, I guess, going into the rematch after losing twice to the same guy. It was a very similar predicament with me and Adesanya, and I do believe that him getting through the fights the way he did, and the way everything is gone, the next fight is the best one. But then, it is what it is. I do want that fight. I do believe that I used mixed martial arts better than both of those guys. I do believe I can utilize my wrestling and grappling to make it a hellish match for both of them." Adesanya and Pereira are set to face off for the 4th time at UFC 287 on April 8th in Miami, Florida, alongside the middleweight title fight main event. The card is also expected to have a welterweight top contenders bout between Gilbert Burns and George Masvidal. Dana White spoke to reporters after this weekend's UFC Vegas 68 event. During the post-fight press conference, White discussed the majority draw between Choi Do-ho and Carl Nelson. The fight was the first time Choi had graced the octagon since 2019, and viewers were eager to see the fan favourite return. It was a good fight in the end, with both fighters engaging. However, in a strange turn of events, the referee deducted a point from Choi for a seemingly innocuous headbutt that was deemed intentional by referee Chris Tognoni. Due to the point deduction, the fight ended up in a draw that would have seen Choi realize victory if not for the deduction, costing him his win bonus. Dana wasn't too happy with the decision to take a point away after the fights, saying, "I thought it was insane and it cost him the fight. I paid him his win money. He won that fight, so I paid him. It was a tough fight, but in my opinion, Choi won the fight. And sometimes the refereeing or judging isn't perfect. So sometimes I do what I can do, take it into my own hands. I felt like that kid got robbed on that ridiculous call." White is often known for making these kinds of decisions after fights, though it is often to reward a fighter who put it all on the line and put on a seriously entertaining fight but lost. Did you see the Choi Nelson fight? Do you believe the headbutt was intentional? While White had positive things to say about Choi's performance in the post-fight, things weren't quite so positive when he was asked about the retirement fight of MMA heavyweight legend Fedor Emelianenko. Granted, it was a lackluster fight between Ryan Bader and Fedor. Dana didn't hold back when discussing the Russian, which could have been a little bit to do with the fact that he was trying to get Emelianenko over to the UFC for a super fight for years. Dana said, "Listen, what is the guy, like 46? He shouldn't be fighting, but he's a grown-ass man who can do whatever he wants to do. But yeah, he probably should have hung it up a few years ago. I don't want to S on the guy, he's retiring tonight and all that stuff. But you guys know the deal with interviews with me. I thought Fedor was that, he got knocked out by middleweight Dan Henderson. I think some of the guys in the business, people liked him, so they praised him. He never got to test himself over here. I was never one of the guys that thought he was one of the greatest of all time." This kind of opinion makes sense given Fedor was long viewed as the best heavyweight in the world and is one of the few to ever be talked about in the discussion of the greatest of all time, who has spent their entire prime outside of the UFC. Fedor went on a massive 28-fight unbeaten streak from 2001 to 2009, putting away huge name opponents like Mark Hunt, Tim Sylvia, Mirko Cro Cop, and Andrei Arlovski. How do you think Fedor's career stacks up in the discussion of the greatest heavyweight fighters of all time? In the wake of the announcement that former doubleweight champion Conor McGregor will be the next coach of The Ultimate Fighter alongside Michael Chandler, there is one man in the lightweight division that knows both men very well. Dustin Poirier has faced and defeated both men in the octagon and recently put his perspective forward on the matchup in a recent interview. The former UFC interim lightweight champion seemed to be leaning towards Conor getting the W, saying, "Either guy can win. I think if Conor comes back with the same timing and speed that he had before the injury, if he comes back to that, he's going to stop Chandler. Chandler's very hittable. Conor's a guy that when you're in front of him, it looks like he can't touch you, but he touches you. He's longer than he looks when he's in there. He uses his length and speed and timing really well to close that distance." He continued by saying, "Chandler's a guy who needs explosive movements to get in and out, and if Conor's timing's the same, I think he hurts Chandler. It's going to be a 5-round fight. Conor doesn't fight co-mains or 3-round fights. So if Chandler can get in there, get some blood in his legs, and get him to wrestle hard for the first few rounds, maybe it goes different. But if Conor has any similarity to who he used to be before the injury and before the layoff, I think he stops Chandler. He's just too hittable. But I will give him this, he is more durable than I thought he'd be. I really thought I'd get him out of there when I hit him with some good clean shots and he was still there. We'll see." Do you agree with the Diamond's assessment? Do you see Conor or Chandler getting up in the fight? Today's tweet of the day goes to MMA Junkie, who pulled this quote from Michael Bisping, saying that he has no problem seeing Conor McGregor get a title shot if he beats Michael Chandler. While Bisping is a legend of the sport and the context isn't entirely clear surrounding this quote, it does feel like a massive oversight considering the fight will likely take place in the 170-pound division. Both men have lost 3 of their last 4, and Conor isn't even yet in the USADA testing pool. Share your thoughts below in the comments. That's all the MMA water cooler talk for today. Please hit the like button and subscribe, as it really helps me grow the channel and develop better content. Be sure to also hit the notification bell to keep up to date with the latest in MMA and UFC news.